The following program is the work of broadcast students from the British Columbia Institute of Technology. BCIT Magazine features news stories from around the Lower Mainland which were produced over the past week. Responsibility for the content of the show rests completely with the students and their instructors.
Today on BCIT Magazine, Americans react to President Obama's re-election. Washington voters dropped off their ballots. And are Vancouverites the meanest people in Canada? Hello and welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Virginia McConkey. And I'm Alyssa Bauer. Today we're broadcasting on location at the BCIT Library. President Barack Obama is getting ready for another 4 years in the White House. On November 6th, Americans gathered across the country to watch the results trickle in. Francesca Fionda was in Bellingham, Washington, and caught up with both the celebrating Democrats and the disappointed Republicans.
It was a decision many people were ready to wait for.
I think that the experience of coming together is important.
And for Democrats, the night was worth the wait. Media reports leading up to the vote said the race would be neck and neck. So politicos grabbed a drink and watched as states turned red or blue. But for Republicans, the numbers did not turn out the way they expected. Only a few supporters stayed to watch Republican nominee Mitt Romney give his concession speech.
I have just called President Obama to congratulate him on his victory. His supporters and his campaign also deserve congratulations.
I don't wish Obama well enough.
We were all rather shell-shocked that Obama won. We did think that it was we just were quite certain that it had to have been Mitt Romney.
But in the end, it was President Barack Obama.
We can seize this future together because we are not as divided as our politics suggests, and we remain more than a collection of red states and blue states. We are and forever will be the United States of America, and together, with your help and God's grace, we will continue our journey forward and remind the world just why it is that we live in the greatest nation on earth.
And with those words, President Barack Obama begins his next 4 years in office. Francesca Fionda in Bellingham for BCIT Magazine.
Washington and Colorado have made history as the first states to legalize recreational marijuana. Under new rules, both states will allow anyone over the age of 21 to carry up to 28 grams for personal use. Colorado took it a step further, making it legal to grow up to 6 plants per person. These groundbreaking amendments have once again sparked the marijuana debate in Vancouver.
It would be a good idea. It would be a really good idea, actually, because they could utilize all the things that you can get from not just pot or weed, but also from the plant itself.
We're going to open up more credible educational channels the more we have sensible, credible, legal reform, right? And I definitely support that.
They legalize it here, it is like a double-edged sword because they'll want to tax it, turn it into cigarettes, and it'll ruin them. But I vote yes to legalize it.
The substance will be taxed and regulated in both states and is expected to bring in hundreds of millions in taxes per year. Americans living in Vancouver gathered together on Tuesday to watch the results of a hard-fought U.S. election. As Connor Danoon found out, most watching at a local pub were rooting for Barack Obama.
Cheers broke out when states turned blue, while heads would shake as they went red. Anticipation was high at Kaylee's Pub, where expat American Democrats gathered to watch the election results roll in. Many in the crowd voiced what's at stake over the coming 4 years.
Hopefully he'll continue with trying to figure out environmental policies and hope that the economy can be improved. I think he's the one who will be able to make more decisions in the long term.
Ron Corral is an economics instructor at BCIT, and as he explains, both candidates have very different visions.
Obama on his own is suggesting things that sound like they are expansionary, slightly expansionary, let me put it that way, and we probably see a continuation of the steady increase in the number of jobs, but not spectacular. Part of the issue with the Romney administration is that we're not exactly sure what he will do because he's said a number of different things. So it's a little hard to tell exactly what he's going to do, but a lot of things he talks about are contractionary in that he'd be cutting spending and so on.
Back at Kaylee's, Elizabeth, who did not want her last name used, explains why she voted for Obama.
My husband has been deported from the U.S., which has a really strong impact on our family and is the reason why I'm living in Canada right now. And I mean, Mitt Romney would want more of that. He would want people to deport themselves, get all these people out of the country. He doesn't have a vision of including these people in our community.
By the end of the night, the winner they'd been hoping for was announced. Barack Obama wins another 4 years, making this group of Americans ecstatic with pride and hope. Connor Danoon in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
Connor Danoon joins us from the BCIT Library. Connor, what was the atmosphere like at Kaylee's on election night?
Well, Virginia, Kaylee's pub was filled with American Democrats, so any Republican opinions were not considered. The start of the evening was a little tense as the electoral votes started to come in. Governor Romney was slightly ahead as polls started to close on the East Coast. But as the night went on, President Obama caught up to Governor Romney and pulled ahead, easing any worries people had earlier in the night. And of course, at the end of the night, there were lots of beers and cheers as Obama went on to claim a second term.
And you said the room was filled with Democrats. Why do they think Obama deserves a second term?
Well, from the people I spoke with, it seemed to boil down to the social issues. They were concerned Governor Romney would take them back a step in terms of social progress on issues like abortion, gay rights, and health care. In terms of economics, in terms of the economy, they weren't overly ecstatic with how the president handled the past 4 years, but at the same time, they felt he needed a second term to deal with the mess he was given in 2008.
On Election Day, voters across the United States waited in lineups for several hours to cast their ballots. But most Washington voters didn't have to wait at all. Washington is one of the only vote-by-mail states in the U.S. Our reporter Nicole Reiner was in Bellingham to check out how their system works.
It's Election Day here in Washington, but something you won't see? Voting stations. Instead, a lot of Washington voters are dropping off their votes on their way to work, by car, bike, and even foot.
We in Washington think that it's a good thing for more people to vote, and we like to make it as easy as possible. We have 2 lanes, one left, one right.
I think it's helpful. I think for a lot of people, especially downtown, that can't park or get out of their cars in a hurry to work, I think it's important to make voting accessible for people that are in a hurry. You know, you get more votes in that way.
Once the votes are dropped off, they are transported to the auditor's office. Here, they are processed and counted.
This way, many people are sitting down together at the dining room table with the entire family and saying, what are the issues today? What are we talking about? Explain it to the children. And the children get to see and, in fact, see their parents voting and are witness to the whole process.
Still, the system isn't perfect. Voters who didn't receive their ballots are left lining up at the last minute. But they say it's a small price to be able to have their say in who should be the next president of the United States. Nicole Reiner in Bellingham for BCIT Magazine.
Coming up next on BCIT Magazine, classes are canceled as staff strike at BCIT. And bomb threats at Skytrain stations produce an apathetic response.
They say if you want a wish to come true, never tell anyone. But there is one wish that can make the difference between life and death. And this wish can only come true if you tell someone. Please, let your family know you want to be an organ donor.
Standby graphics, ready, camera one.
If you want to experience the fast-paced world of news,
today on BCIT Magazine, striking,
make magic on a movie set,
frame,
and action, or bring your creative ideas to life, BCIT's hands-on training will get you started. BCIT Television and Video Production. Your possibilities start here.
Welcome back. Good news for BC drivers this morning. Car thefts have plunged by 74% over the last 10 years. ICBC says that's thanks to the Bait Car program. Parking lots have seen a decline in theft, and car owners say this is welcome news.
Sounds great. Makes me feel better about parking here because I was a little concerned initially.
Good to see the cars being stolen was down, but it doesn't stop breaking enters. So,
especially in the underground parking lots, this seems like it's good security, and I do see some security officers around too, so I feel pretty safe.
Older cars, however, still remain a target. The top stolen vehicles are the Ford F-150, Honda Accord, and Honda Civic. After 2.5 years of unsuccessful bargaining, BCGEU members held a strike at BCIT's Burnaby campus, disrupting some classes and shutting down student services. Camille McDonald found out from the union members exactly what's making them turn to the picket line.
Thank you, Lucy. Joe Kosh and Peter Bruning are members of the BCGEU, two among hundreds who are braving the rain to walk the picket line.
I mean, really what we're looking for is equality. We were very realistic in what we asked for and tabled with our final proposal, and that we asked for what this government has already given members of the same union already.
The union is asking BCIT for a 4-year contract with 0 wage increases for the first 2 years and then 2% increases for each of the final 2, a proposition that's been rejected. All of the wickets are shut here at BCIT Student Services during this one-day strike. It's one of only a few places on campus affected by the strike because the union says it wants to cause the least disruption to students while still putting pressure on BCIT. BCIT management declined our request for an interview, but says BCIT respects and values its faculty, staff, and students. We continue to work with collective bargaining representatives to find a suitable resolution for all parties. Bruning has been through 3 strikes at BCIT and says the union's role to protect workers' rights is especially important today, as long-time members retire and are replaced by younger ones.
They don't get the hard copy of the contract that we used to get in the so-called old days, right, which you would study at your coffee break. Everything is online, and if you don't go to it, it's not going to come to you.
He stepped back after years of bargaining for the union because he felt it was important to allow new members in.
The big reason for the unions was so long ago that nowadays it kind of gets lost in the news. All people hear is unions want more money, unions want that, but they don't see that the need for them is to have all the workers work together and share in the same goal.
The union says it's determined to get a fair deal and will expand job action at BCIT until it's reached one. Camille McDonald in Burnaby for BCIT Magazine.
We're joined now by Richard Schaefer, the BCGEU chairperson from BCIT. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Can we just start with you letting us know kind of where the bargaining stands right now?
Right now, it's at a stalemate, that we're not bargaining with the employer at all. The employer doesn't have a mandate, and we've given them a final offer.
And what's the timeline if this isn't resolved? Like, what are you hoping happens in the next several days, weeks? What are we looking at?
We've done job action so far. We're going to probably be doing further job action shortly.
Mm-hmm. And is this affecting students at all?
It is affecting students, and it will probably continue to affect students until it's resolved.
Yeah, how so? Are there some examples?
Well, if we go on strike and we picket down buildings or campuses, that will mean that students won't be able to get into their classes because their instructors are not crossing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and when do you think this is going to be resolved? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea at this point.
Yeah.
There's no timelines.
Yeah. And just for the people that aren't too familiar with the union, what exactly are the steps that need to be gone through in order to get this approved?
They basically have to be agreed to by the employer. The employer has to take it to the Post-Secondary Employers Association. They have to agree to it, and then the finance of the government has to agree to it.
Well, great. Thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And in Vancouver, a recent wave of bomb threats at several Skytrain stations led to increased security on public transit across the Lower Mainland. However, for most commuters, worry over the potential threat fizzled out quickly. I visited a local Skytrain station to find out more. These commuters are still hopping aboard the Skytrain despite the recent bomb scare just down the tracks. In fact, most people aren't thinking twice about it.
You know, I don't think too many people have stopped riding it because of it. So I think the biggest thing is the cameras. It said when I read in the newspaper that they're talking about installing cameras. Whenever they have something like that happen, it should be done automatically.
Well, I do feel safe on the Skytrain. I do think that, it's kind of scary to know that there was an explosive device on there. But overall, I think they do a really good job.
The guy is being an idiot and decided to do something that disrupted people's lives, and I find it to be annoying. But unless I wind up seeing an actual disaster, then I'm not going to do it.
While the Brentwood station is relatively quiet, other stations have been adding extra security since the explosive device was discovered.
We've increased manpower over the last few days just for security presence and to make the passengers feel safe.
The explosive device was found on the Skytrain tracks. A witness says it was made up of about 3 canisters the size of a fire extinguisher. Transit police don't know how it got on the tracks, but suspect it may have been thrown over the railing and landed on the guideway. A transit police spokesperson could not be reached for comment, but a press release confirms they are still sifting through evidence for clues that could lead to an arrest. The statement reads, "There has been a thorough canvass for witnesses in the area in which the device was found, and statements of evidentiary value are being collected. At this time, no tips of value have been received." With the investigation still ongoing, little information is being released about the incident. Transit officials have, however, stated they have no motive or suspects, but are monitoring social media sites for information and potential future threats. Alyssa Bauer in Burnaby for BCIT Magazine. Canadians have a reputation around the world for their politeness, but here in BC, a recent HSBC poll has ranked Vancouverites as the least welcoming in the country. Reporter Thurston Gerlach filed this report.
Vancouverites should feel pretty lucky living in the Lower Mainland. No, the weather's not always this dry, but Vancouver continually ranks near the top for any list of the most livable cities in the world. However, according to a recent HSBC poll, Vancouverites are the most unwelcoming in Canada. A statistic Queenie Chu, CEO of social service agency Success, cannot believe.
I have to say that it has, I was taken a little bit by surprise because I thought that personally, I thought that Vancouver is a friendly city as well as a welcoming community.
Chu says it's important for Vancouverites to reach out to new immigrants.
Through, some of the major cities, whether Vancouver, Lower Mainland, or Burnaby, Tri-City, I think it speaks to the importance of getting the programs available in those particular areas.
There have been different points of view around the city on the new HSBC poll.
Well, I'm from New Zealand. I've been in Vancouver for just under a week, and I don't know, I can't say I'm that impressed at the moment.
I think a lot of people are really sort of self-absorbed and not really willing to step outside of themselves to make a connection with other people in general.
I always thought we were pretty friendly people. I mean, I understand there are some people out there that aren't so great, but worse in Canada, was it?
Canada?
No, I don't know if I believe that.
Earlier this year, the Vancouver Foundation did a similar survey, trying to find out what issues people in the community should be focusing on. While it expected a predictable list, homelessness, poverty, affordable housing, it was shocked to learn that the #1 issue facing communities was a growing sense of isolation. Thorsten Gerlach in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
Coming up next on BCIT Magazine, a street in New Westminster is a target for tickets. And one woman is trying to help the homeless prepare for winter.
This is me. And my mom and dad. And my big brother Alex. And Jack. This is the day I learned that sandals got their name from sand. jellyfish aren't made of jelly. That stars don't just come from the sky. That the ocean is bigger than all of us. This is the day we all got to forget I was sick. This was my wish.
I'm Jonathan Sechrist, and welcome to this week's edition of Community Calendar. Christmas is coming a little early to Grouse Mountain this year with the Peak of Christmas Festival happening from November 24th right on till Christmas Eve. The festival promises tons of events for the entire family, like an outdoor ice skating rink, mountaintop sleigh rides, and Santa's workshop. Tickets are free if you buy a lift ticket or a season's pass to the mountain. And speaking of Christmas, if you're interested in getting a head start on your holiday shopping, the Park Royal Shopping Centre is hosting their third annual Starry Nights Shopping Night on November 16th and the 21st. The mall will be open after hours and will feature wine tasting, live entertainment, and some stores will have a one-night only sale. Tickets are $10 and all the proceeds will be donated to charity. And if you're looking for some warm food this cold winter, the Vancouver Aquarium is hosting their first ever Chowder Chowdown, happening on November 21st. 12 different chefs from around Canada will be preparing 12 original chowders, each paired with a craft beer. This event is 19 plus and tickets are $50. I'm Jonathan Sechrist. That's your Community Calendar.
Welcome back. As winter approaches and temperatures drop, life on Vancouver's downtown east side becomes increasingly difficult for those living on the street. Jennifer Ferguson found out what challenges the homeless are now facing.
Surrey jail for a month and a half, and girls go in there and guys go in there just to do time so they won't be sleeping out on the street because it's so cold. That's how bad it is out here.
In the winter, each day for the homeless in Vancouver is about survival and finding a place to stay warm and dry. Judy Graves has been an advocate for Vancouver's homeless for over 30 years and knows the challenges winter brings.
Today looks beautiful because it's sunny, the skies are blue and clear, but it's actually some of the most dangerous weather that we have. The people who are living in the streets have been out in the rain for the better part of a week. They're soaked through to the skin, their feet are wet, their clothing is wet, we can't get them dried out during the day. And when they're out all night and the temperatures drop over the weekend, we're worried that we're going to see deaths from hypothermia.
For those living on the street, winter poses many challenges.
The colder the weather, the less accommodations are available. So,
the downtown east side in the winter months is not kind to people. In the summer, we can get around and hustle a little bit more, and there's things that we can do and places where we can go that in the wintertime we can't go.
Last winter, for instance, in the shelter that's just over the road from where we stood, we basically went around on the street and found an elderly gentleman who basically was close to being dead. Like, we had to literally put him on our back, carry him, and try and warm him up, and obviously the ambulance had to come and everything.
2 weeks ago, the BC government and the City of Vancouver announced they will be opening 4 new temporary shelters like this one. Officials hope to eliminate lineups by providing over 160 spaces for the homeless between the end of November and next May. Advocates like Judy say these shelters are a step in the right direction, but she won't stop until all those in need have a place to call their own.
Everybody can have what I have, which is a warm home, bed, blankets, food. Everybody should have that.
Thanks to people like Judy, more homeless will spend this winter in a warmer place. Jennifer Ferguson in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
A massive number of tickets issued on a new Westminster street has left residents shaking their heads. Police have issued upwards of 1,600 citations over the past few years, leaving many to wonder why they're being singled out. Neil Curray has the story.
The concern is that the people parking too close to these driveways.
Douglas Wicker is trying to prove a point and maybe save our camera crew from getting a parking ticket too. Because over the past 5 years, more than 800 vehicles on the 400 block of Carnarvon Street have been ticketed for parking too close to this driveway.
The city takes their measurements from the top of the curb drop and they go back 5 feet from the top of the curb drop. I'm saying if they took it from the bottom of the curb drop, because clearly where there's a curb, it's not a driveway. If they took it from the bottom of the curb drop, then that 5 feet would move out to about here, and we'd get that much extra room so that we could have 2 cars parked there legally without having to kiss bumpers.
As you can see, we're here on the south side of the street. Now, the lines haven't been painted here compared to the north side, and that's why residents are incensed because they've been given quadruple the amount of tickets compared to the north. Now, the residents are taking their fight to City Hall.
How about painting some lines or painting the curbs to let us know that that's where it is? We don't do that anymore. We haven't done that in 20 years. And so I said, well, okay, can we paint them? No, you can't paint them.
Finally, 2 weeks ago, City Council ordered staff to paint white hash marks on the south side of the block. While that has not completed yet, the engineering department says the zealousness of its bylaw officers is all about driver safety.
Just to park within that 1.5 meters, a vehicle exiting that driveway would have to turn wider, farther out. Vehicle pulling out that can't see is, jeopardizing the vehicle as well as any pedestrians that are in the area.
The city insists it enforces the bylaw fairly throughout New West, but residents aren't convinced and they're ready to keep up the fight, given that 1 in every 10 tickets for parking too close to a driveway is handed out on this one short block in the municipality.
It works out that we have received 110 times the number of tickets that the average city street has received. Now, that's not 110%, that's 110 times, or 11,000%.
By Douglas Wicker's calculations, since 2006, the 110-meter stretch of Carnarvon has generated more than $100,000 in ticket revenue. Neil Correa in New Westminster for BCIT Magazine.
I'm Alyssa Bauer. And I'm Virginia McConkey, and that's today's BCIT Magazine. Thanks for watching. We leave you now with the Democratic supporters awaiting President Obama's acceptance speech.